us tonight. I'm Anya from University of Reading. I'm part of student recruitment and outreach team. So I'm here to support Kelly and to take any questions that you guys might have. Kelly is going to do the presentation, and then at the end, he'll have a chance to ask any questions. But if you have a question as we go through, please pop it through in the chat and we can pick it up either as we go along if it's relevant right at that point, or we can answer them at the end of the webinar. Please note that this is recorded as well, so if you want to go back, you will receive a recording tomorrow so you can view it back, and you don't need to take notes, you don't need to take screenshots, all of this will be available to you.
Thanks, Anya. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Anya. Thanks to you all for coming. My name is Kelly Lloyd. I am a lecturer in the Reading School of Art, and I'm also an admissions co-lead, and I'm also an artist. So this is my studio wall behind me. I just moved in. That's why there's nothing on there. Don't judge me. And I'm getting over the illness that's going around, so I apologize if I have to clear my throat or anything. So in this webinar, let's see, great. First, I'll speak about how to present your work quite broadly, what to include in the portfolio. I'll go over the 3 UCAS questions and some prompts in terms of what to think about when answering your UCAS questions. And then we'll go through 3 past successful portfolios of 3 alumni who actually just graduated this past year. Cherry Dodd, Alex Buxton, and Isabel Small, who have all given their permission to use their portfolios as examples. And then, like Anya said, we'll have a question and answer session. So I'm just like setting up my screen. So how to present your work. A portfolio should be visual, be selective, avoid repetitive imagery of the same work or type of work. Again, later I'm going to have examples of these specific points. In the portfolio, please include as much variation as possible. So include your drawings from your sketchbooks, paintings, finished paintings, paintings that you haven't finished yet, in process paintings, sculpture work, etc., video work. We accept a wide variety of media. It's a very interdisciplinary department, and so feel free to include what you'd like to include in your portfolio. Ensure that you take really good photographs of your work. And I have some suggestions in the next couple of slides about how to do that. And sometimes this will include editing or cropping these photographs. In your slides or in your portfolio pages, please include the captions, which should include the information including titles, the medium of the work, the size of the work, and if you'd like the process or the context of the work. You may photograph some pages from your sketchbook if you feel as though it's relevant. However, we don't want to see images of handwritten notes and/or images of other artists' work. So I'll show you examples of this in a second, and you'll see how this is quite difficult to decipher. We would, however, like to see brief annotations or descriptions of the work that support your images, but again, keep this brief. And you can also include any relevant research, but put that in the statement, not necessarily in the portfolio slides. You can, however, add links to websites, YouTube, if you publish work online, and obviously this is necessary if you have video work. And if you do have video work or even websites, YouTube, just make sure that we either have the password or that you can access it without the password. So what to include in your portfolio? Include your most recent work. This doesn't have to be finished by any means. Include what you're working on now. Include work in progress. Please include both coursework and also independent projects. Independent projects is really important to include just so that we see that you have an art practice beyond what your assignments are in your course. Be sure to, in your portfolio, include, or rather showcase, a variety of abilities and technical skills. Show us what your interests are. It doesn't matter what those interests are, just show us what you're interested in. it's really useful to include drawings, drawings from your sketchbook, larger drawings, especially because it feels like drawing as a way to show us how you're constructing images, how you're thinking through things. Quite often drawings are the first step to work in other media too, so including those drawings is quite useful for us to see. And then again, include that meaningful research either within the caption of your portfolio, but preferably within your statement. Most institutions will ask for a digital version of your portfolio. And so it's entirely possible that you'll kind of, go to other institutions, go to their portfolio, webinars, and hear that there is some kind of middle ground where you can create one portfolio and send that out to multiple institutions. Quite often we require around the same thing. And we require that it'll be digital, our portfolio. Like I said before, within the captions, please include details such as the title of the work, the size of the work, the medium of the work. If you want to talk about the process, and then also the context of the work, you're welcome to. In terms of tips about how to make your photographic documentation slightly better, get a decent camera. Honestly, your phone is probably decent at this point. It's probably a decent enough camera to use. Take photographs of both the whole work and then also detail shots of the work or close-up shots of the work. It's really important for us to see the detail of the work because that's when we can kind of see the way that it's been constructed, the texture of the materials that you're working with, things like that. Make sure that the work that you photograph is evenly lit. Take a photograph that's straight on, not askew. Consider how the work is staged or its context, like put it in front of a blank wall rather than like next to your jumper or something like that, Also feel free to put a pencil or a hand or a person within the photograph to show scale, especially for installation work. That's quite useful. You can crop the image if it's necessary. Would highly recommend cropping the image if that would make the focus of the work better. And then also be sure to check the white balance of the work. And you won't necessarily have to do that if you manage to find a spot which is evenly lit. So in terms of, sorry, I feel like maybe I skipped a slide. Anyways. Actually, I think maybe it's in the, anyways. So, for Reading, we're going to ask you to include a statement, which will be within your UCAS application. And then once you turn in your UCAS application, we receive your application, then somebody will reach out to you to ask you for a digital version of your portfolio. And then there isn't necessarily like they'll follow up with you. It's not like you have to turn in your portfolio within maybe a week or something of when you turn in your written application. So it's perfectly acceptable for you to now, as you're filling in your UCAS application, as you are filling in your statement, turn that in, and then you still have, several months to work on your portfolio, and somebody from Reading will be in touch with you if they haven't received your portfolio by, by a certain date, but that date's not set necessarily. So feel free to kind of take the time that you need to build the portfolio, which you feel like really showcases your skills. And then if that takes a bit more time, then you just filling out your UCAS application, that's okay. Someone will follow up with you to make sure we get your portfolio. So in terms of the UCAS questions that you're going to be asked, and I have some in the following slides, some prompts to help you think through what information you can include, which matches up with some of the things that we want to hear from you. The 3 UCAS questions are, why do you want to study this course or subject? How have your qualifications and studies helped you to prepare for this course or subject? And what else have you done to prepare outside of education, and why are these experiences useful? So in terms of thinking through the first UCAS question, or the first UCAS question, kind of sub-question within the statement you have to write, why do you want to study this course or subject? We really would like you to think about, what does art mean for you now? So many students start off their statement with, since I was a child, I've always had a fascination of art. Try to explain why art remains important to you as an adult, as opposed to thinking through a childhood lens. So what does art mean for you? What kind of art community are you in? What does that mean to you? In the next slides, I'll speak about how to talk about art specifically, specific artists, specific exhibitions you've been to. Think about your life as an artist currently and how you can communicate that to us as a reason why you want to study this subject. So how have your qualifications and studies helped you to prepare for this course or subject? Some things that you can think through are, what skills have you learned on your current course? How has this helped you to become more disciplined? What else have you learned or become exposed to? And also, what would you like more help with? I feel like the last question about what you would like more help with shows us, right, a certain level of self-awareness and reflection, but then also helps us to determine if we have what you're looking for, right, which is really important. Talk about your most current project. Tell us what you are making and how you've approached this work. Again, as I said in the first kind of sub question, what are you working on now? Speak about yourself as an artist currently. And then this is quite full of potential prompts for you. So what else have you done to prepare outside of education, and why are these experiences useful? Which contemporary exhibitions have you visited? Even if you live in a remote area, you can visit exhibitions through online platforms like the Tate website. You need to demonstrate that you have an authentic interest in art that goes beyond the compulsion to make work. And visiting contemporary exhibitions either online or in person helps us to demonstrate this. So in your statement, be sure to include the name of this contemporary exhibition, the artists who have interested you, the institution where it was, what you thought of the exhibition, things like this. So yeah, let us know what struck you about the exhibition. Explain which artwork stood out for you and why. This demonstrates that you're able to make valued judgments about art outside of simply liking or disliking an artist's work. It also demonstrates observation skills, which are essential when making critical judgments. What other subjects and skills interest you? This helps us get a general understanding of you as a complete person. And how do these relate to your approach to art making? These other subjects, other skills, other hobbies. And they may not, but if they do, it's good for the school you're applying to, us in this case, right? To hear about these other interests that you have, these broader interests that you have. Do you have any future ambitions? I'm going to phrase that differently. What are your future ambitions, and how will an art degree help with these? This may be unclear. It might be developing, right, at this point in your application process, but it helps to understand what your current motivations are, why you want to study this course. And again, if what you're interested in and what you're interested in doing afterwards is something that we can actually help you with. So yes, this was the slide I was looking at. So what is the process? What is the application process? So first, right on, you research your course choices, like you're doing right now, right? Like you are coming to campus for open days. We have an open day coming up on Saturday, November the 8th. So you're going to open days, you are going to the UCAS fair and going up to students to hear about their experience. You are researching the specific courses that, or rather the specific modules that courses offer. You're doing this research, and from this research, you'll be able to select 5 courses on UCAS. You'll answer the UCAS questions, like I said, within the statement, the 3 questions. You will submit that, and then we will request the portfolio from you, a digital portfolio. You'll await responses, make your decisions, do any further visits. In addition to open days, we also offer holder days. There are plenty of opportunities to speak to students and staff at the Reading School of Art, and then also to come and visit campus. So like I said, I'm going to go through three successful applications, 3 portfolios which were submitted to us of students who actually just graduated this past year. So the first person who was kind enough to allow us to look through their portfolio is Cherry Dodd, and Cherry Dodd got a joint honors degree from Reading in art and art history. And so as I go through these slides, I'm just going to kind of give you a window into the way in which we, as people who'll be reviewing your portfolio, will be looking through the portfolio that you give to us, the kinds of thoughts that we have, the things that we're noticing that are, you know, good, the things that we think could use some improvement, things like that. So that's kind of what this section is about. Cherry's slide includes 3 portraits of people, 3 painted portraits of people. You can see that Cherry includes quite a good and clear caption, which lists the medium, the size, the date that she worked on it, and then also some of the themes around beauty, their presentation of art, and she specifies that this is A-level coursework. I think that this is a really good example of putting multiple images and multiple works within the same slide because they're within the same body of work, right? So it's not distracting to have multiple works on the same slide because I'm seeing and understanding more about what this particular project was about by seeing the work together, seeing the play between text and collage, and kind of more abstracted elements of the face and more detailed elements of the face. So here is a slide that takes, another work from the same series. So it again shows a sustained investigation. Like she's been working on this for a while. She's made multiple works of art that are within the same kind of question. But then here she's showing us kind of a variation on it, playing around with different things, with the top image playing around with kind of rectangles of color, whereas the bottom playing around with swirls of color. So this shows another thing that we're looking for, right, is experimentation. We're looking for you to be trying out new things, not to necessarily make like the best work of art in the entire world, but instead to test things out, test out new skills, new ideas, play around with the same idea, see what works. Experimentation is really important to see, both as a student and therefore because of that as, within your portfolio. So here, this is a really great example of why writing doesn't work in your slides, because it's nearly impossible to read this, right? It's really quite small on the slide itself, and also it's difficult for us to understand everyone's handwriting. And so if Cherry had kind of taken all this information and distilled it and put it into the statement, which I'm sure she did, that would have been far more useful than kind of these chunks of unreadable text within the slide of the portfolio. So this is, a really good example of how, it's interesting to see the construction of her work. It's interesting to see what seems like it could be maybe some pages from a research process or from her portfolio, but the text here just is quite distracting. So again, in the slide, you see different parts of Cherry's process in making the final image. You see her experimenting with different color tones, with monochrome, with black and white, and this is, if you're looking to introduce more experimentation into your portfolio, this is a really good way to do it, right? So like how to take one image that you have, one image that you've generated, and then play around with the color scheme of the image itself to not even like come to, you know, the best possible image, but really just to kind of see the image that you're working with from different angles, and to demonstrate to us that you are willing to experiment, you're interested in experimenting. So, you know, quite a number of people include different kinds of animation in their portfolio, different kinds of drawing styles, right? We've seen this from Cherry already, like the different kinds of drawing styles that she's demonstrated in this portfolio. And I think that this kind of character design is quite useful, again, for this play around of variation, demonstrating experimentation and color, and then also demonstrating a different kind of drawing style. Again, this is a really good example of how on one slide you can add multiple images. And so as Cherry did before, having 3 images from the same project, she has taken, you know, different images, life drawing sketches, and then put them all on the same slide. So it doesn't seem distracting. Instead, what it seems like is, you know, a genuine interest in life drawing, which is an easy thing that anyone can do. Again, if you're looking to add more depth to your portfolio, take a line drawing class, draw your friend, draw yourself. But this is one example of a way that you can include multiple images within the same slide, but have it not be distracting because they share something in common. In this case, you know, a way of drawing. So here, Cherry is working with monoprint portraits, and is, again, just really demonstrating an interest not only in drawing broadly, but character design drawing, and how is that different than drawing using different kinds of printmaking techniques. So I think that Cherry's portfolio is really strong because even though quite a lot of them are portraits, right? They're portraits from completely different drawing styles. And they also often appear in series. So it's not like just a one-off, it's something that she's actually interested in finding something about, getting better at, and she's demonstrating that through her portfolio. Again, a play around with repetition, drawing, you know, kind of continuous line drawing, still a focus on portraiture, but then playing around with color and different shapes, different materials. So this is quite often people, you know, include portraits within their portfolios. You are the easiest person to draw. You're always there. And even though this isn't a portrait, right, Cherry takes what could just be like quite a classical portrait of somebody and plays around with it in terms of the color value. So again, if you're interested in showing more experimentation in your work, take a fairly standard, you know, sketched portrait of yourself or somebody else and just play around with different kinds of color, different kinds of tone. So this is a shot from Cherry's sketchbook. Again, small type writing that we won't read. We can't read it. You know, it's far too small. It's difficult for us to understand handwriting, but I think it is quite useful to include things in your sketchbook. It helps us think through your thought process. And so, yeah, this is a great example of something that isn't necessarily a finished work, but is an idea within your sketchbook, which you should definitely be sure to include. So as you're thinking about what to include in your sketchbook, and again, if you're trying to add a bit more depth into your sketchbook, if you work primarily with representation, try abstraction. Try it, you know, try color field paintings, try thinking through brushstrokes and gestures if you're a painter. If you work mostly with abstraction, try representation. Again, this is just an example of a kind of range that Cherry is able to show. A range of experimentation. So again, more abstract work, but playing around with, you know, not necessarily people, but different kinds of technology objects, playing around with different medium. Yeah, Cherry's just doing a really good job of showing us a wide range of the things that she's worked on, both independently, potentially in her sketchbook, and then also in response to potentially like A-level assignments. And so this is Cherry's work that she presented in her final show this past year in the spring. And it feels like you can really see the ways that not only did Cherry's, right, art education influencer, but then also her education and art history influencer with like the use of different kinds of historical etchings, you know, juxtaposed with photographs, taken photographs, and then also these sculptural elements. So the next person who I wanted to talk about, Alex Buxton, I think is also quite unique in that he came in as a painter, he left as a painter, which a number of people do, like Cherry. A number of people also just kind of open up their practice to different mediums. But Alex, I think, is a really good example of somebody who stuck with a medium, but clearly just, you know, really took ownership over it over the course of his time at Reading. So here is a slide from Alex's portfolio. You can see on the left that he included a source image right next to his painting. And this is quite useful for us to see, just to see, you know, your process of working. Like, say you do work from photographs, that's useful. That's useful to know, but then also to see in the ways in which you are skillfully rendering something or abstracting it. It's useful to have these reference images within your work, specifically if you took them, specifically if that is also part of your art practice. Not necessarily reference images from other artists that you're interested in. We don't need to see that. You can just mention that like within the caption or within your statement. So here you see different paintings, drawings. You've got, you know, a landscape on the left, lots of different brushstrokes, different textures. You have, you know, a monochrome, a black and white drawing in the center of a portrait, and then you have this color drawing on the right with what looks like, you know, a bust from a sculpture. I mean, they're highly experimental. You know, it really shows an interest in kinds of different things, right? Like not just portraiture, but an interest in drawing objects in museums. That's also another great way to include more drawings into your work, include more paintings into your work, is you can go to museums and draw sculptures in museums, draw paintings in museums. You know, it also indicates an interest in you know, an interest in landscape. So really you see here just trying out different things. So this is a painting, and then, you know, not only does Alex include in his captions the title of the work, the date that he completed the work, the medium of the work, and the size of the work. He also includes a little caption. So I'll just read that really quickly. This is from my second year project, which I based on the theme of dreams and the subconscious, largely part of my love for surrealist painting. I like to think of some paintings for this project as a series, hence the name. I created it by collaging together elements from primary and secondary materials, creating a dreamlike otherworldly synthesis. So in this way, right, Alex was able to quite succinctly include some information that helps us to understand the image. This is in no way a requirement, but if you would like to include any of these little clues as to what kinds of broader things you're thinking about, feel free to put that within the caption. Please write a short caption, and it's better, right, if it's typed in rather than if it's handwritten. Again, just paintings that are like super experimental. You know, what a joy to see somebody really just going for it, you know, like it matters more to us that we see that you are engaged and interested in something rather than being interested in anything in particular. You know, make sculptures, make paintings, we don't care, make what you want to make and show us what you're interested in, and, you know, let things get kind of weird. It's very cool to see this, you know, it feels like you're able to kind of see the applicant you know, through their portfolio when you just kind of go for it, you know. So in this way, Alex has included in the same slide some preliminary drawings that led to the final painting, a really good way to show us your process, and to, again, include multiple images within the same slide, but not in a way that's distracting, in a way that like helps to kind of clarify something about the work. Again, more preliminary drawings, split across 2 slides. You know, don't feel the need to cram, you know, a bunch of work on the same slide. We don't have a limit in terms of the amount of slides that you send to us. Usually, I would say no less than 10, no more than 30. But, you know, feel free to space the work out. There's no need to kind of cram a lot of work on the same slide. So again, including some preliminary drawings, this time making a sculpture. So, you know, as I said before, right, if you're working in representation, try abstraction. If you're working in abstraction, try representation. If you're thinking about trying to, you know, push your portfolio, you know, can you make one of your paintings into a sculpture? Can you make one of your sculptures into a painting? Like really just, you know, try things out and take photographs along the way so that you can show us your process. And so then this is one of Alex for his final show, made like 5 or 6 just huge paintings. And so this was one of them. Yeah, started a painter, ended a painter, did a lot of experimentation in between. And then the last portfolio that I wanted to go over with you was Isabel Small. So sorry about that. So Alex got a single honors degree in fine art, and Isabel Small got a joint honors degree in art and psychology. So here we have a set of observational drawings, again, testing out different things. It shows a high level of skill, you know, but kind of grouping them together so that we can look at them as a set, and being able to group them together on the same slide because they share something in common. This time that they're observational drawings, all made out of pen. Faces of Distortion, acrylic on wood. You know, all 3 of these portfolios have really good examples of captioning. So Isabel Small on the slide says, here I was looking at overlapping faces and how you could then join and distort the faces. Again, you don't have to write any additional information in the caption other than like the title, the size, the date, the medium. But if you do choose to include additional information, it can be really short. this is a sentence, but it does help us to understand kind of what the intent of the work was. So a fairly straightforward pencil portrait. It demonstrates, a high level of skill. Again, really useful to draw yourself, really useful to draw your friends, as kind of ways that you can demonstrate your skill, but then also just include more work in your portfolio that might be slightly more experimental than the work that you've done, say in your A level or in your foundation year. So again, like sketchbook, really wonderful to include work in the sketchbook. It's really good to see work that's unfinished, bits and pieces of work that might then appear in other parts of your portfolio. But again, don't include writing. We won't be able to read it. It doesn't work. So here, Isabel's also trying things out in terms of linoprint, printmaking as a demonstration of an interest in printmaking, some experience in printmaking. Here, Isabel Small writes, these pieces are created from the idea of enlarging a 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter square from a previous work. So this is really good to demonstrate, right, like a shift in scale, but then also how do you work? It's a process. Like, how do you work in series? How do you get your ideas? How do you experiment? How do you play? This is a really good example of the caption being able to let us into a better understanding of the process, and the process being quite experimental, but then also continuous, because one work leads on to the next work. Again, another example of an interest in printmaking, which is really useful to see. So on the left, this is research and development page in Sketchbook. Swoon, right, is an artist. And so in this image, Isabel has, some of Swoon's work on the left in the sketchbook, and then also her kind of interpretation of Swoon's work on the right. We, don't need to see, we're quite interested in hearing about the artists that inspire you, but we don't necessarily need to see your writing about that artist or the artist's images. The way that you could do that is either put it into your statement or put it into, a 1-sentence description within your captions within the slide. Using pen now, still playing around with portraiture and lines and faces, but kind of moving between drawing and printmaking, demonstrating different skills, different interests. A digital image, Isabel writes, I created this to look and improve on my use of lighting. So again, really useful as a juxtaposition between all of the representative work before, all of the work that uses people's faces, focuses on portraiture. It's really useful to have an abstract work, and also in this case, right, use of digital work. So it shows a different skill, but it also shows a different way of playing around with kind of lines and color and lighting in this case. So we have just a couple more sketches, drawings, and that Isabel did at home, experimenting with contrast and cross-hatching. Again, yeah, be sure to include both your kind of more finished work from assignments and also, your individual work that you do on your own time, which demonstrates, right, like a real interest and passion for making work. So another set of sketchbook images, you know, playing around again between printing and then also sketching with, you know, watercolors. So more work that kind of bridges between printmaking and sketching. And then again, more work that is kind of abstracted, even though you kind of still see what it is. It's really useful for her to write that, you know, it was an A-level piece, so we know it's kind of in relationship to her coursework, and also, again, right, like water droplets, the titles are really important also to kind of indicate what we're looking at, right, as we're looking through your slides. And so then this is an example of Isabel's work that she presented earlier on this year. I mean, I feel like you can really see the way in which her interest continued, you know, within this kind of use of graphic drawing, this interest in printmaking, but then with her degree show, she managed to extend that into installation and into performance work. So I think that's also really quite interesting in terms of looking at people's portfolios and looking at the work that they end up with and being able to see some of these connections along the way. So I think that's it. That's it for me. Maybe I'll like turn on some lights in my apartment. So we have my email address there, k.e.lloyd@reading.ac.uk. Like I said, I am the code lead on admissions. Please feel free to send me an email with any questions that you have. And then also the link here, reading.ac.uk/art/undergraduate portfolio information 2025. If you would like to kind of revisit some of the things that I said, we have a website which not only includes this information, but also includes some tips about things that you could make to bring more depth to your portfolio, more experimentation to your portfolio. So what questions can I answer? You're on mute.
Sorry, I was on mute. One of the questions we have is, can I include the work that I have done with a partner or as a group project?
Certainly, yes, you can. It would be really good for you in that case to say that it, like who you worked with, and that, or that this was a part of a group project, and maybe in that way you can highlight your own individual contribution to the group project or to your collaboration in the captions.
Thank you. Can I include work that didn't turn out how I expected, as long as I explain what I would do differently or what didn't work?
Yes, please do include work that didn't come out the way that you expected. There's no need to, I mean, yeah, feel free to, in the caption, in a way that is concise, talk about what you were hoping to make. But I think that also in that way, right, reflecting on what you learned from it not quite going the way that you wanted, shows a certain level of a willingness to experiment, which I think is really quite important.
Another question is, how do you feel about interactive portfolios versus traditional PDF formats?
I think that, what is an interactive portfolio? Like, do you mean like things that maybe we need to like click, or I'm not entirely sure what that means. Maybe we can get some clarification.
Yeah, Hannah, could you please expand on the interactive portfolio for us? Oh, okay, so she says, yes, that is correct. So I guess.
Yeah, like having URLs that we need to go and travel elsewhere. I mean, I think that you should figure out how to format something that best showcases the work that you're making. And so obviously, if you're making work that needs to be seen elsewhere because your work is you know, a whole website itself, or because your work is actually interactive, or you're working with game design, or maybe you have you have videos as a part of your portfolio, then obviously like you're going to need to, you know, put that in. That's far better than like say including stills from videos, things like that in the portfolio. Again, please make sure everything is accessible, that it doesn't necessarily need a password in order to access it. But I think that we're willing to, as long as it works and we can access the information, we're willing to get portfolios that do kind of require us to go elsewhere to get more information. That's fine.
We have a couple more. So one is more about the UCAS statement. If I'm applying for combined art and psychology, which subject should I target my personal statement more towards?
So you, your art and psychology degree will go through us. So all of the joint honors degrees go through us. So I would say in your statement, you know, answer yes. So I think that say like, in your statement, as you talk about the way in which you prepare, what coursework prepared you for your degree, feel free to, you know, list out the coursework that you took that is specific to psychology. But I think what would be more useful for us is to understand the ways that you're thinking about art and what it means to pursue both art and psychology. You know, and in a way, right, I asked as a prompt for the third question, what other interests you have. You know, if you're doing a joint honors degree, you're basically doing like a degree which is like 50% in the other subject and 50% in art. So that means that psychology isn't another interest, right? It's like as fully present as your art. But I do think because the statement will come through the art department, all of the joint honor statements come through the art department, it is really quite important to detail in your statement why you're interested in an art course, what particular artists you're interested in, exhibitions you've seen, what are your ambitions broadly, and then within that, obviously feel free to include as much information as you'd like in terms of, you know, why art and psychology, or why art and philosophy, or why art and English literature, why these two subjects. Yes.
Thank you, Kelly. Next question is there emphasis on any form of art, traditional, digital, or are students facilitated for any form they wish? I assume that's meant on a course rather than in portfolios. Am I correct?
Are you waiting for okay. Yeah, no. I mean, I think that our department is incredibly multidisciplinary. It's incredibly interdisciplinary. You know, we have a lot of painters. I'm a painter. We also have people that work in sculpture and installation and sound and video, and so I think in that way, right, we don't judge portfolios based on them either being one medium versus another, or not demonstrating enough variation. Like, I think, you know, a lot of people come into the University of Reading primarily as painters, and then they kind of get exposed to other mediums after that. So in your portfolio, if you are mostly just one medium, maybe try something else, right? Like Alex did, like try to make your painting into a sculpture, or try, if it's all been kind of, drawing, can you try a digital drawing or something like that? But we don't necessarily expect that you're going to demonstrate a wide variety of mediums in your portfolio at the stage. And so we don't discount you if you work between a lot of different media. We don't discount you if you work with one media, but I would encourage you to see if you can experiment kind of with, if it's mostly drawing, try painting. If it's mostly painting, try a sculpture. If it's mostly sculpture, try a digital drawing, just try something out. But it certainly doesn't have to be the bulk of your portfolio.
Thank you, Kelly. One more question. What's the structure of the course in a joint honors degree? Is it much the same as a complete fine art course?
Yeah, sorry, it's gotten quite dark. Wait, give me. Let's see. Maybe that helps a bit. So what is the structure? So in a so all of our joint honors courses are 4 years long. And then we have 2 single honors courses, fine art, which is 3 years long, and then art, which is 4 years long. The 4-year long course, it doesn't necessarily have a foundation. Rather, what it is it's kind of another year in the middle of your course. So if you feel as though you want to do a single honors but can't choose between a 3-year course and a 4-year course, it's more about the amount of time that you feel as though you need with the support of faculty members, our facilities, things like this. And if you feel as though you could use more time, then we would recommend the 4-year course instead of the 3-year course. Each year, you will have a studio course. It'll be a large chunk of your education. And that is both if you're a joint honors degree and if you're a single honors degree. And within the studio course, you'll have group tutorials, individual tutorials, you'll have a workshop inductions, you'll have time to focus on your own practice. You will have specific skill sessions. A lot will be packed into this studio course. And so then if you are a single honor student, in addition to the studio course, you would take an art history course through our department. And then maybe you would also take, especially in your first year, a course outside of the department, say in languages or psychology, something like this. For the joint honor students, basically you would take the studio course in our in art, and then the other half of your credits would be within the other department. So it really is like a 50-50. You're essentially getting 2 full degrees over the course of 4 years. So then you would spend the rest of your credits in psychology, say. And with the art and psychology joint honors degree, the way that it's managed is your first year is quite heavily psychology along with the studio course. And then after that, it kind of evens out by the time that you're in your final year, where you have your psychology dissertation, and then most of your credits are in art, right? Because you're preparing for your art exhibition. There are other courses like art and English literature and art and a philosophy that have far more optionality to them. And so within, say 50% of your credits needing to be in English literature or philosophy, you would have quite a lot of choice in terms of, taking a class in, Gothic literature versus Jane Austen, or I don't know, fill in the blank in terms of philosophy. So I think that because we have so many joint honors students, and we've run these joint honors programs for such a long time, we've managed to do them in a way in which you feel as though you're a part of both programs at the same time. And you're in Studio 1, or your studio class, rather, that you take through us, which is your largest amount of credits. You're going to take that class with people in all of the other joint honors. You're going to take it with people who are in single honors. And so that, you get to kind of have communities both within art and then also within your other degree. And you get to move forward with the same cohort that you started with even though you may be working on different joint honors at the same time. Hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Kelly. I think this might be last question unless anyone else comes in with anything else, but someone's asking whether they'd be able to include any links to their work in the UCAS statement. So if they have an Instagram account for their work, or if they have a YouTube, can they include links in the UCAS statements?
Gosh, I don't know. Do you know this?
I think the answer is no. I think there's a limit, obviously, for characters when you write the UCAS statement, and it's there for a reason, because everyone in admissions reads through your UCAS statements, and there's only so much they can take in with each person. So that's why there's a limit on characters, but also that's why you're not able to include any links. So I think the way even statements arrive to you guys, if you do include the link, it won't even work. So it'll be a broken link. So, but as Kelly said earlier, you can include links in your portfolio to your work. So that's how you can go about that. So unfortunately not. One final question, I think, before it will just kick us out, because it was set for an hour. Do you have any format recommendations for digital portfolios besides PowerPoint?
I mean, I do think PowerPoint's easiest, just because you can arrange the slides and then save it as a PDF.
Canva maybe?
Canva, I am not familiar with Canva. I think as long as, because I think at the end of the day, you're going to send us a PDF. So I think any way that you end up creating that, any way that's kind of the easiest for you, you should do that. And then kind of make sure you give us a PDF with like multiple slides, rather than maybe like just sending us something to go to a website or a kind of continuous document. I think it is important that it has kind of individual pages to it, and then it comes to us as a PDF. But yeah, in terms of suggestions, God, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I use Word documents, but really I feel like and then I save it as a PDF, but really I feel like the easiest is probably just like PowerPoint or Keynote, or something like that. And then you said, Anya, maybe Canva?
Yeah, Canva, and some institutions offer a free subscription as well to Canva. I'm not sure how and why, but some do, and it might help you kind of with having a more, I don't know, a layout or a template that you can use to then include your work. But it's essentially like Photoshop, but everyone can use it now. It's like a poor man's Photoshop, I think. That's what they call it now. Thank you so much to everyone for attending and for asking the questions and for taking part. Thank you so much, Kelly, for presenting. This was really interesting, and I wish I could do an art degree right now. If you're interested, like Kelly said, we do have an open day coming up on Saturday, 8th of November. You can still sign up, you can still come along. So if you just Google University of Reading Open Day, it will come up and you can sign up and join us. And if you have any questions, Kelly's email is there, and this webinar will be sent to you tomorrow, so you can watch back if you didn't get a chance to see all of it, or if you skipped some parts, or if you were a little bit distracted, whatever it is, you'll be able to watch back. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.